Confessions. I had an estimated 200 yellow legal pads with notes and ideas, corners turned down, things that were so important that, of course, I would come back to, that I had to sort through before I moved in 2022. And after a short time, I pull out another drawer of my full-size filing cabinet and I just started dumping 25-year-old manuscripts for children's books that I'd submitted to publishers, notes from mastermind meetings that cost me over $20,000 annually that I felt I couldn't possibly part with, and potential titles for programs and new series and pitch decks for media, all gone in black garbage bags. I hadn't looked at them, many of them, in a decade. Others, you get home and you finish that Pilates reformer certification, and 15 years later, still have your notes, but have never looked at them again. You're never going back to them. But every one of them is a good idea. And the distraction of a good idea could kill the full day ahead of you that you have to get shit done. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to She Means Fitness Business. And at Fitness Business, She Means Fitness Business, it's a division of Voice for Fitness. And that is my business where all of us here feel like you want to be an inspirational example to other menopausal or midlife women. And what you need is a profitable health and fitness business to do it. But the problem is a lack of revenue or a lack of clients, or both, because one often takes care of the other. But some of you are charging too little, I will say that. That's exactly why I became a coach. And I know because I've been there, even at 49, 30 years into this experience, and I'd made money, but I started over. And I knew what it felt like to feel panicked, kind of like, if I don't get this going, I'm going to have to look at doing something else. I know where you are if you're there, so stay with me. And there's lots of good, high-quality, motivating podcasts here. So keep looking, find them, listen to them, and keep me in your ear, okay? But this episode, I want to dive right into, so I'm going to send you, instead of to booking a call right now, start with this one thing. Download my Health and Fitness Professionals Guide to your business scorecard. You'll be able to see at a glance what you have in place and where you don't have something in place that is absolutely what you need to market. So you may be gathering the certifications. You may be learning about the nutrition or the gut health or the detox or the exercise or the hot flashes or whatever it might be, but you are going to have to sell. You're going to have to market really well, and then you don't have to sell as hard, but you've got to have those skills. And you can't turn them over to somebody else blindly. You need to know what you're doing, and you are the voice behind the business. So grab that scorecard, and you can stop, worrying about your dream slipping away while you watch other quote unquote influencers get clients and earn more money. And you can too. Okay. The distraction of a good idea. How ironic is this, right? But listen to me. I'm talking a tall 4-drawer filing cabinet full of yellow legal pads. And it's still, yellow legal pads are like one of my favorite things. Honestly, right now, if I put my hand and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have 6 of them on my desk right now. I'm so sorry. I feel like I need a confession. Wow. But good ideas are kind of the root of all evil. You need one great idea. You don't need 42 good ideas distracting you. It's like, oh, I could do that. That's such a great idea. You hear somebody else and how they pitched or made an offer, and you're like, oh, I'm going to throw that into my program. That's not a good idea. Or actually, it is, in this case, a good idea to leave alone. If the distraction of a good idea is a problem you need to solve, this will definitely resonate with you. Answer a few questions for me. Do your creative juices flow when you get a good idea, you hear a good idea so much that if you talked about it at lunch or you heard it on a podcast, you want to go right home and start figuring out how to implement it. You're looking for the back of a napkin to write on. And possibly while you're doing that, you abandon the other 18 loose ends, open loops, and projects that need completing and attention, the course content that needs to be reviewed and redone. Would you do that? Abandon those orphans? Then it's official. There's a good chance if you said yes, you're a serial entrepreneur. Even if this is your first business or you are only thinking about being a health and fitness professional, this is just so important. You also might collect certifications, instead of getting one, realizing that it's the business of marketing and selling that actually is what gets you clients, and making sure that you can do something to get the service and the skills you have in front of people. Do you love new ideas? Love to create new programs? Think about how to deliver them? Do you like to think of the title, and the way that you're going to create the sales page or the layout and how it's going to look? Do you love to play in Canva? I'm also almost willing to bet everybody listening knows what Canva is by now. Are you constantly creating lists and documents and maybe also losing them, knowing you had a great idea and wondering where you put it? You have tons of journals, notebooks, legal pads, notes, and just things you have to remember. Yeah, well, if you're an entrepreneur, there's a good chance that you're a creator. So you're potentially a quick start too. Short attention span for the follow through, but a passion for starting and creating and ideas. And that is not all bad. It's great to realize it and to start using your talent to your advantage in a way that still creates boundaries so you can avoid the distraction of a good idea. Another one, right? So here's how I do this. This is the better way because listen, nobody needs 200 yellow legal pads okay, I'm ashamed to admit this. I moved from Iowa to Boulder in 2014. I moved from Boulder to Scottsdale in 2019. And it wasn't until I moved from Scottsdale to Phoenix in 2022 that I threw the yellow legal pads away. But mind you, I hadn't looked at them since I put them in there in Iowa. That's close to a decade, if not a decade. So I think it's fair to say that a better system is probably warranted. But here's what I do now. Number one, I dump ideas into a Google Drive, and I revisit them regularly, but infrequently. So they're like not your grandparents, but like your great aunt. I have to be careful because I'm a great aunt. But you would visit only as frequently or infrequently as you visit your great aunt, not like your parents, right? So it's, yeah, but they're there. Give yourself permission to regularly go and review and kind of fill your idea box up and maybe get some inspiration. Never just kill them or let them die on a Post-it note or a desktop note. And I got to tell you, I've done this a lot. I will come back from a conference and, I've got one right in my hand right now. It's from the JW Marriott Camelback Inn in Scottsdale. And that is probably from last October. Tomorrow will be August, right? And so all of these notes I've had here, evidently the keynoter was Dr. Joe Dispenza because one of his quotes is knowledge is power, self-knowledge is self-empowerment. Okay, that was brilliant. But do you know, I haven't looked at that except to pick it up and just to show you. But this is I don't know, what would you say? 5x9 piece of paper. And a lot of those, just the note cards that are on the nightstand, I fill those too. And I bring them home. And then I'll stuff them into books and I'll take the books to the pool. And oh my gosh, they're all over the place. But then when I just get sick of them, I'll just like flip through them and say, I'm never going to look at that. And then I'll throw it away. But there potentially was a really juicy thing in there because I thought it was important enough at the time to write it down. So don't let those things die. Put them in a place right away. Like the day you're at a conference or a convention, if you can take all of your handwritten notes and you can put them into a G Drive, so much better. Some of you are using fancy smancy like iPads where you can actually write on it and it will convert automatically or auto magically. I think somebody on my team member said today, those things are gold. Right? Because then you don't have to retype. But I think sometimes there's benefit to retyping and just getting it back into your head and let it flow through your head so you can revisit it because then you're responsible for locking it into your brain and clearing it up and make sure that when you see it again in 5 months or 6 months, it'll still make sense to you. Then share these ideas with your team members. If there's really some bright spots and things that, you've gone to a conference or they have, and allow them some time to come back and say, what did you love about it? Did you get an idea from it? Do you want to share? Is there anything that we could benefit from? And how did it recharge your batteries? Maybe that is it. Maybe that is all there is. But there may be a reason why you or why I or a team member that I have jot something down. I mean, it may be there's serendipity to it, right? So pull out ideas that are worth discussing in a team meeting, decide what the rewards would be for implementing a new change or new process and what the cost would be and what the time investment would be. Very quickly right there, don't brush over that. I just gave you how you evaluate if it's a good idea that you should implement or if it's just, that was a good idea. It sounds good in theory, but I don't know that it's going to work kind of a thing. So, I will go to lots of work conferences. I'll get ideas or platforms, or there's an idea for, at one point, our membership, which we started in December of 2015, it was built and ready to rock and roll. So it was 2016 when it began. And that was an idea before that, right? So at one point, I had to say, this is a really good idea and I want to do it. I want to do this. And you've got to decide, though, why would you want to do this? What are the rewards going to be? Like, what's the monetary charge that is going to bring into the business? What's the cost going to be if you don't do it? And then what are the expenses to actually implement it? So cost of not doing it, make sure you're clear on that. Like if you don't do it, how could your business lose? What will that look like for you? And what is the cost of actually doing it? Like the time and the money investment. And if time means other people on your team that you're paying, that's a monetary investment, but it is also time because it is keeping them from doing something else. So you've got to factor that in as well. So look both at time cost and money cost. Okay. And that you kind of put into your filter and you stir that up and say, do we do it or do we not do it? Or do we do it now or do we do it later? Or do we revisit this because it's a not now and I don't know about later? So there's lots of things that could happen here, but this is how you would evaluate. Usually, ideas are for new products or new services or a new way of promoting your business or a new way of being seen. But say a new book or a podcast or a certification usually mean a new long-term commitment to promoting. You have to promote that you're going to do it. Then once you launch it, you are eternally promoting. You will be known or need to, right? Be known for that podcast. You better love it. You better be thinking every week from here on out for eternity, I am going to do this, right? And similarly with a book isn't just you wrote it, you're done. Congrats. No. That's the easy part, actually. Then you have to get out and promote it. You need to get booked on the media. You need to do lives with your friends. You need to be a guest on podcasts. You need to promote it on your own podcast. You need to write blogs. You need to do so much for years after a book, and if you were ever going to send your book to an agent first, who would then farm you out to a publisher, that process is 2 to 3 years long. And they expect you to go on tour and to do all those things. And you may not have the list or the platform, which means your email list plus your exposure elsewhere, your social media following collectively, and the numbers that they would expect that you can prove you can sell 100,000 books. If you can't do that and you're not willing to, go on a book tour and do all the things, they probably are not going to publish your book. They're not going to take you. You might self-publish, but I only point that out to say you should be thinking that way of yourself too. You should be thinking, how am I promoting this book? So really important that you're prepared to promote your book, promote your podcast, promote the fact that you have a certification or you now have a body of knowledge is a better way to put it out there. So long-term, commit to promoting and selling in order to make it pay off. So make a list of all the ways you're going to do that. Okay, in summary, there's 3 questions that you can use to evaluate whether a good idea is something that should make it to something more permanent than a yellow Lego pad and stick around and be something that you revisit regularly to see if now's the time for you to implement. Number 1, how much will it be worth to you? And by when will that come in? How much will it cost you if you don't do it? And how much time and expense will it take to make you money? And what's it worth to you? Okay, the dates on all of these are so important. So, how much will it be worth to you? And by when will that revenue come in? How much will it cost you if you don't do it? That's a harder question to answer based on a date. And the expense, how much is it going to cost you, like for the team to build it or extra people you have to hire or the platform and the tools you have to buy? How much will that cost you and how soon does that expense go out the window? You want to kind of compare that to how long before the revenue starts coming in. Because it's easy to project, I could make, easily make $50,000 by the end of the year. But if it's going to cost you $60,000 to build, is that wise? Right? To pay $60,000 now to make $50,000 by the end of the year? And not that you wouldn't continue to make revenue after that fact, but do you have the cash flow to do that? And there isn't a guarantee potentially, right? That 50,000 is going to come in, because that will depend on probably you marketing and advertising as well. So if there's going to be 6 months and thousands of dollars in building it before it's ever been used, and there's no real monetary reason for doing it, you might quickly realize this is not the best idea that I've had, actually, after all. So I hope this was helpful in how you recognize there are tons of good ideas, but the ones that are really great for you in taking next step in your business, they are ones you have to really be able to sit down and filter through and do a product analysis. So as a business coach, I use a certain framework, and every product or service that someone wants to offer, we put it through this filter. Like literally, what is this? How much would we charge for it? How many do you expect you will sell? And how are you going to sell them? How are you going to let people know that you have these for sale in the first place? And, what is it going to cost up front? And how much of your time does it take? And this is the one factor that a lot of health coaches don't take into account. They don't factor in how much their time is worth. So you've really got to think about, how much revenue do you or should you be bringing in on an hourly basis? Take in the number of hours that you're working in a week and the revenue that you're bringing in and divide, right? So figure out how much is your time worth. Now, some of you may realize right now that you're working for pennies. And I know you may love it. Maybe your passion, but is that really what your intention was? There's a better way to do things. And sometimes it takes sitting down and looking at this painful reality that, yeah, you're making more than, 10%, or more than 90%. Sorry, you're in the 10%. However, if you're backing yourself into a corner, that's obviously not our goal. So evaluate all those good ideas. Don't let yourself get distracted by something that seems like a good idea. You've got to put something together that makes sense. You've got to try it. You've got to stick with it for a long enough period of time to actually test it. And then you can move on to the next good idea or come back and revisit one. I hope that's been helpful. And if you are a serial entrepreneur, you're my kindred spirit, and it's very easy to, come away. You do want to go and you want to get inspired by, a lot of new ideas and new people and new platforms and new possibilities. But you also want to be able to step back away from that and say, okay, that was valuable for this reason, but I want to stay on track, and keep myself going in the right direction. And here's my right direction right now. Because generally it's the people who promote the same thing over and over and over again, perfect it, tweak it, modify it, do it again, that win. So realize that it's not another new idea and another one and another one and promoting all these things. It's promoting one thing and just doing it really, really well. So go for that. Okay. Show notes will be at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/good idea. And what are you waiting for? The world needs us right now more than ever.